Hello, guys. Welcome to the Cunning Buffoons podcast. My name's Dylan.
I'm Andrew.
Undecided.
Undecided. Great name.
No, you got to make a choice in this household. Is that your choice? Just sit around and wait.
Patience.
Your name is Patience.
No, we're practicing patience. I'm phoning a friend.
You're phoning a friend. Can you tell me what my name is, please? It's like when people ask me how old I am, and I'm like,
Mom, have I used John before?
I don't know.
Yeah, our producer has not made the list of names you have used already, so
I didn't realize that was part of my responsibilities.
everything that we don't do is your responsibility.
That's rude.
I do
I
all the
specifically
uploading
asked you to do it.
and the
remember?
shorts. Like, all you got to do is record.
I've been hungry all day, so
Same.
I'm ready for dinner.
We had pizza.
It's okay.
Same.
Me and Dylan will,
But I had
we'll get
Lunchables.
something else.
Dude,
Those were-
Lunchable?
Those were good. I won't
Have you
lie.
seen the new Lunchables? Like
Mm.
just the little packs where it's just
We've
the meat,
talked
cheese,
about
and
this
crackers, and it's not the daggum cookie and all that bull crap.
Yeah, I don't remember this.
Yeah, they're like $1.50.
Pretty sure it was when Caleb was here.
Oh,
Yeah, like $1.50. You just get just the meat, cheese. and-
You had
I'm
a
gonna have to go
pizza
buy some.
Lunchable and you thought it was good. You're vile. You're a vile.
it was pretty
creature.
good. I won't lie.
Who? The pizza
It
Lunchable.
was pretty good.
You nasty
A
creature.
Lunchable is supposed to be a little sandwich,
Yeah.
not a pizza.
It was still good.
That's not a Lunchable. That's a
Still good.
Pizza-able.
It was still good.
I can't do it.
It sufficed me.
I
for
could just
the-
eat the pepperonis, but like you're just getting like
That pepperoni pizza was better than cheese. Man.
You know
it's
what?
like a flat piece of bread.
No, the stupid Lunchables is so gross. It's like you get the crustiest pizza sauce ever.
You ain't wrong. But the thing is, you have to make it right. I feel like I make it right. Even though
It's
there's
still
not a
crusty.
certain way to
It's
make
crusty.
it.
I mean, it's almost. I can't do it. No, just give me the, and I don't even like the bologna ones. Like, give me the ham, cheese, and crackers. That's it.
I like the nachos.
The turkey ones are fine.
If there's no pizza, I'll grab
The
the nachos.
nachos are all right. The cheese is kind of mid, but the salsa's fine.
Yeah, I ain't doing it. That's
I
not a
don't like
Lunchable.
cheese, so it works for me.
Like if I want salsa and chips, I'll just go get a bag of chips and salsa, and it'd be the same price as a Lunchable.
Or they're like the bigger ones with meat and cheese that come with a Capri Sun too. Man,
So y'all are getting out of my zone because I haven't had a Lunchable in like forever.
they make the newer ones, right? There's like these boxes, right?
Yeah,
they're like-
I remember those. The boxes that came with like water. You could
Yeah,
like,
you
add
could
the
get flavored water,
yeah.
and you could get like it'd come with like a thing of Pringles too.
Those things were all. I remember.
Yeah,
those.
that's
Those were
lit.
good too.
If you're gonna do that,
But think about it, you get a Capri Sun, Pringles, and ham and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but like
Can you complain about
me
that?
and my buddy used to
No.
split lunch for weeks.
Spit?
Split.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like 1 week I would buy, the next week he would buy. So like on Monday I would swing by and I would get a pack of cheese, a pack of ham and cheese loaf, a pack of bread, and some mustard. And that's what we would have. We'd have a sandwich or two, and I'd get a couple bags of chips. So like, I mean, back then it was like $30 for all weeks for 2 people to eat. And then the next week he would pick out whatever type of meat and cheese he liked, and we'd have sandwiches all week. Like that's how we saved
Okay, but
money.
like, what's that cheese stuff called, Mom?
What cheese?
You can like make sandwiches out of it.
Pimento cheese.
Mitchell does it.
pimento and cheese.
Why do people just like
That
why-
stuff is terrible.
Why would he just?
So good.
Okay, look,
That stuff is the
Oh,
nastiest
you know
crap
me,
ever.
Phil.
the
right?
jalapeno
When we were
one,
building his
oh,
house, right? He would have a Dollar General sack because this was like when we were building it. There's nothing around there, so there's a Dollar General sack full of on-the-go tuna packs or bread and pimento cheese.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Tuna's great. I'll eat just some tuna, you know.
Hate tuna.
Okay, but it's tuna or bread and pimento and cheese.
I hate all of them.
Yeah, if you
But it's-
notice, though,
it's like-
he
it's
gets
just
stuff
bread.
that you don't need a cooler for.
Pimento and cheese.
Yeah, pimento and cheese has mayo in it. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, but
really
I've
good.
seen him snatch it out of the back of a like 4x4 many a times and eat it. It's been laying out there all day.
Well, that's not
His generation is just built different.
great for your.
They're
tummy.
designed to handle anything not good for you and just chug right along.
Well, that's like I was talking to my boss the other day, and he was talking about how he walked in the store and saw cigarettes are $9 a carton.
A pack, not a carton.
Yeah, like a carton.
A pack.
Oh, I guess a carton,
carton
is the whole
yeah,
thing.
10 of the packs.
I was like, okay, well, when you were smoking, because he said he smoked when in his 20s, but he got to the point where he couldn't walk up 2 stairs without huffing and puffing, so he threw them away and said, this is stupid. But he said you could get, like, for 50 cents, you could get a pack, or you could get, for like 60 cents, you could get your own stuff and your own stuff to roll it, and it would last you 10 times longer. And you could
Yeah,
roll
but
all
rolling your own sucks. I never I can't
You're
do
just
it.
lazy.
No, it's just the cigarettes turn out terrible. Like, I can't roll my own. I'm terrible at it. But also, like, most of that, like, how much of a pack of cigarettes is tax? Look that up for me, Mama. Like, it's ridiculous how much they tax you.
We could just...
It's an excise tax that they're like, oh, you want to do something that we don't approve of, so we're going to tax you.
Let's just breathe smoke willingly. Pay to breathe smoke.
Okay.
That makes 0 sense to me. I mean, I know you do it.
It's special smoke.
No, it's not. It's smoke. You pay $9 to
Pretty sure
breathe
it's called nicotine.
a stick of smoke.
It's one of the most useful drugs known to man, but the delivery system sucks. Nicotine, like, instantly shuts off all the noise in your brain and makes you concentrate. Like, it's an extremely useful drug. But the problem is the delivery system just sucks. But then there are also people who can smoke their affect. There are instances I've known, like I got a buddy of mine that I think it was his uncle or great uncle one that was on a Navy ship, and like there was a fire outbreak and everything, and he saved a bunch of people. But basically there was other people like collapsing because of the smoke and all that stuff, and like he's running in and out of this burning freaking building and the doctors literally told him, they were like, you would be dead if it was not for the amount you smoke. Your lungs are so used to the
it was
smoke.
good for one guy.
Hey.
And it saved a few people.
Every fire, you go to any fire, right? You show up on a fire scene, you can tell every firefighter that smokes and everyone that doesn't very quickly. All the firefighters that are smokers will be walking through the fire, blasting stuff. I've let my head plumb off in burning cars. I don't care. I'll breathe it in, check for people, spray it, and it doesn't bother me. Then you see the people that are not smokers, they get out there and they're like, and they got to be on air all the time. Or they're
So
sitting,
if you're a firefighter, it could be potentially beneficial.
or you
but
could
you're
be like
not.
me. I've had a pulmonologist look me dead in the eyes and argue with me about smoking. She's like, there's no way you've smoked for 25-something years. And I'm like, asked all the people that know me.
Well,
She's like,
okay.
'cause there's no damage in my lungs.
If it's doing no damage, what's the point of doing it? I thought that was the point of cigarettes. You're
No.
paying to inhale smoke.
You're paying for nicotine. We just talked about nicotine. Nicotine is the drug in
Inhaling
cigarettes.
smoke.
And inhaling something is one of the fastest ways to have it infect your system. That is why a lot of the drugs, marijuana, meth, and a lot of that stuff, that's why it's, people prefer when you smoke it, because when you smoke it, it instantaneously affects you versus taking it and then, waiting for the effects. It's got to go through your system and all that. When it goes into your lungs, it like goes in immediately. Did you find out the taxes?
Doesn't it go to your blood?
So,
Yes.
federal tax on a pack of cigarettes is $1.01 per pack, and the Tennessee state tax is 62 cents. So you pay $1.63 every pack in taxes. But
That's
still, you're
literally
still paying
nothing.
$7.
You're still paying close to $7, but then if you look at all the taxes that they've put on them and the health organizations and all that have put on cigarette companies, and now all of a sudden you realize that, cigarettes would probably still be $4 a pack for most of you major brands if it wasn't for. And
Yeah.
it's
that's
one of
fine.
those
You
things.
have to pass on cost. I get how commerce works. I'm just saying they're really expensive.
Yeah, but it's one of those things to me that is where society, or no, a government tries to dictate morality. And like, I don't know. To me, cigarettes is one of those things that should be approached completely differently. Like alcohol in society. Alcohol in American culture, especially in the Bible Belt, you're all taught about abstinence, and it's terrible and it's bad. Like all the churches you go to, you hear 100 sermons on alcohol and how terrible it is. You hear 1,000 sermons on smoking and how terrible smoking is. You can ask a ton of Christians. Hardly any of them have sat in a sermon where they've heard somebody talk bad about dipping. That's tobacco. So it's one of those things that to me
What
falls
even
in
does dipping do?
same thing, gives you nicotine. Tobacco is for nicotine. That's what it's for. But the problem is this. At what
Dipping just looks so vile.
It's so
it's
gross.
terrible.
It looks
Now
so
I probably
vile.
could have done it if it wasn't like the first time I took a dip. I think I was 9 or 10. Like I was already smoking at that point. But like someone's like, Tree, you should try dipping. And I'm like, sure. Nobody told me what to do, so I took a big old wad and shoved my jaw full and took off on my dirt bike. And then I hit a big jump. And when I hit that jump, it jarred me kind of funny, and I swallowed the whole wad. And then a couple years later, I went to D.C., and this was seventh or eighth grade. We went to D.C., and I went to one of the other dudes' rooms, and I had left my Coke, and I come in, I'm like, sweet, my Coke. So I grabbed my Coke up, and I downed it. About that much, about a third of a Coke bottle. It was spit.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had been spitting their dip spit in it. But I drink so fast, and I downed the whole thing before I realized it. So those two instances, I can smoke like a freight train, but I cannot dip.
That's always been my fear because a lot of people around me have been like, I would kill somebody. Somebody would die. You would not come out of that building alive. I promise
But
you.
I don't understand why you picked up my daggone bottle because I left it half full. They poured it out and then filled it full of spitting in it. Of course, we were all in like 8th grade and probably shouldn't have had tobacco and alcohol on a school trip in D.C. anyways, but What do you mean, who cares?
I mean, it's better to do all that when you're young rather than when you get older and you start having kids and then you're like, oh, let me experiment with wine. Yeah, no.
Well, see, that's the
Let
problem.
me experiment with this. It's
You,
like, no,
you just
don't.
gave the number one problem. It's the let me experiment. Our culture, like I said, especially in the Bible Belt, teaches anything that somebody disagrees with, instead of teaching people responsibility and the action, like the reasoning behind your actions and why you do things, they just teach them, stay away from it, it's evil. Like, I got a bunch of Italian family. I see them with a beer in their hand all day, every day. Wine glass, all day, every day. I've never seen one drunk. I've run with a bunch of people from overseas, Australians and like all different types of cultures that drink a lot, but you never see them drunk. But they're taught from birth what alcohol, it's a beverage. It's designed to be, with meals. It's not, you're not drinking in excess. We was having a conversation with somebody last night about this, but like I was explaining, like in our culture, most people's experimentation is done at the behest of someone teaching them that shouldn't be teaching them. It was people like me that were teaching people how to use alcohol, right? And I could drink 3/5 and 24 beers in one night, still walk and talk. I think like my record was like 4 cases in one night by myself and a couple fifths. I had a unnaturally high tolerance, but pain medication and all that stuff doesn't affect me. That's just my physiology.
I can beat that.
But I was the person that was showing people and all my peers and stuff that were hanging out with me how to use alcohol. That's not the person you need showing people how to use alcohol. There's a commercial on the radio that I hear or on one of the podcasts I listen to, it comes on all the time. It's about it's a single mom or mother or teacher or whatever, but she's talking about how she was tired and somebody casually offered her some meth to help her stay awake. And she's like, well, then I spent the next 3 years using meth every day. If you'd have been a little bit more informed, if maybe you'd have been raised around people that would look around and go, hey, you remember that, that family member or that friend, or, you watched them go off the deep end, that was drugs, that was meth, that was heroin, that was marijuana for some people alcohol. It's an individual approach that is needed that is not used. It's this blanket abstinence that's used. What's every Disney movie about?
Father dies.
Like if somebody has some type of power.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, they'll think you're a freak. Hide it. Don't tell anybody about it. And then what happens? Oh no, somebody finds out, the person has no clue how to do it. They've been hiding their powers their whole life, so they know. And like what Frozen, like she creates a whole ice wonderland because her parents are like, you're a freak, shut up about it.
That's the only one I could think of.
Instead
is the only one that happens in.
Well, I mean,
Not every
in
Disney movie.
Snow White, they're like, go sleep in a cabin, that'll solve all your
I mean,
problems.
besides
No.
Tangled.
Live with 7 men and sleep in a cabin, that's your key to life. But the whole, like a lot of the Disney stuff is all about what happens when you hide things and
I
everything's
think-
secretive. And
Well, I think I don't think you should be 21
Okay, then I'll be
smoking your
22.
first joint. I just don't feel like that's right. You know, I feel like you should have learned that as a teenager and then figured out, oh,
But see, that's the problem. People fail to realize that these drugs and alcohol, and all this stuff is fun. But people aren't honest to their children. They don't say, hey, alcohol's a blast. You'll have a whole lot of fun up until you don't. Marijuana's great, fun recreational drug. Abuse it too much and watch what happens. Like, get caught with it and you have all these arbitrary charges on your account. You wind up being a felon in some instances. Like, they don't teach that, yes, this stuff is great fun for a very short season. When you use things and you abuse them, especially like overindulgence in anything, and this is, energy drinks, Cokes, freaking ice cream, like anything in overindulgence becomes not a benefit to you. But with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, especially, I don't think it's passed on properly because everything's taught about just don't do it because it's bad. Instead of explaining, hey, the reason it's bad is because you're going to see all these people having fun. You're going to see the parties. Like, society's going to show you the great aspects of this, but they're not going to show you the sitting with the guy that spent 12 years strung out on heroin and now he's trying to sober up and he constantly battles not hanging himself because he's remembering all the crap he did while 12 years on heroin, destroying his family,
it's
stuff
so
like
bad. It's so bad. It's just gonna make them want to do it as a sign of rebellion.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anytime you teach abstinence without reasoning behind it, like we have failed as a culture. Most adults that I spend time with, I'll fuss at an adult. Like, I'll chew an adult out for this. Like, they'll be talking about kids, and they constantly, because you hear a bunch of people talking, teenagers are stupid. I ain't no dumber than you. I mean, like, I'm 38. Yeah, I'm 38. Okay, I make just as many stupid mistakes a week as any teenager out there. And that's the thing that adults fail to realize. And I know a lot of adults that, like, if like I'm 38, they're 42, they'll look at me like a child because I'm 4 years younger. And it's like, that's not how life works. Maturity is through experience and, learning responsibility and stuff like that. But also, like, teenagers are not stupid. They're highly intelligent. Do they do stupid things because they don't know any better? Yeah. Do I? Yeah. The only problem is a lot of times when I do stupid things, it's not that I don't know any better. When you get to adulthood and you get 30s and 40s and 50s and 60 years old, and like these people are looking down on kids and younger people because they're so dumb. And it's like, dude, you just made that mistake and you've made that mistake every week for 60 years. Who do you think's stupider? And that's the problem. Everybody looks at everybody else as they're dumber because they're younger and stuff like that. And children are treated as such. If I had raised you and told you your whole life you was an idiot, you'd probably believe you're an idiot.
I believe I'm an idiot, and that's just because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yeah, but there's a difference. Like, I've run around with people that, like, their parents literally trash them, their grandparents, everybody in their life.
I don't know. A lot of parents do a lot of things wrong, and not every parent is perfect.
No parent is perfect.
But there's ways that I've seen things done that I'm like, dang, really glad that is not how it was done, because that's just stupid. I hate it when parents use Christianity and they use Jesus as a shield or as a weapon or as a reasoning for something, but they can't give you a base behind that reasoning. Oh, you have to wear this because of Christianity.
Yeah.
Why?
It's
because Jesus says it's good.
That's a lot of churches, though. That's a whole lot of the westernized Christian culture, especially westernized Christian culture, is why do we believe that? Well, I don't know. That's a stupid answer.
Somebody said it, and then it got passed down through the church.
And then there's a lot of people like, were you in the youth class? I think you were. When we done, what was it, 4 or 5 months study? We done a bunch of things that were
Dome was probably asleep.
Things that were said that were in the Bible.
Yeah.
That aren't. Phrases and stuff. It took us 4 or 5 months, but like I had the youth I think it was when John Boy and all them were in there. But I had the
Yeah,
youth
yeah.
like come up with a list of things that like were taught that were biblical principles or things that were said that were in the Bible that aren't in the Bible. Like one of the first ones to come up was a penny saved, penny earned. Like there's a lot of people that think that's in the Bible.
I've never heard that.
Dude, I've never heard that at all.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that will attribute quotes, and there's a lot of people that will misquote quotes from the Bible
I
because
know there was one that I thought that Eve was made from Adam because took out his rib or something like that. So every woman has one extra rib. No,
Yeah, I
that's
thought
not
that
it,
too.
Yeah. And then there's the like you get the people that go off on like the did they have belly buttons debate and all that. But then there's
Who cares?
there's a lot of stuff in the Bible like all the people and like I don't agree with slavery. I don't think you should own another person, but it is not condemned biblically. It actually lays out rules, laws, and regulations for it and gives a way to be a proper master if you are a master, and then gives a way to be a proper servant and slave if you are a servant and slave. And it's also a completely different cultural context and all this stuff. And like, I've had Christians be like, well, the Bible just condemns slavery. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Sorry. Read it. It doesn't. It does tell you that if you're a master, it gives out all these rules and regulations to where if you're a master the way the Bible tells you to do, nobody would mind being your slave. It even gives out every 7 years, like in the Jubilee laws, where you have to like give the land rest, and then like I think it's 7 years. Like I'm not 100% gonna like quote this correctly, but it's the gist of it is every 7 years your slaves and indentured servants like they can go free, right?
Mhm.
So like it's 7 years of servitude, and then that was your service period. But if your slave does not want to leave, because you're such an awesome master. Now think about it. It gives a regulation for if your slave says, I've worked for you for 7 years, but I really don't want to go anywhere, bro, because you're great. It gives, you put their ear and you pierce their ear with an awl against the door, and I think you put an earring in there, but basically it shows that they are permanently yours. But that wasn't done by force and capitulation. It was done by, hey, because to be a proper master, anybody under your care has to have food, clothes, be taken care of. Yeah, they may work for you, but everything else is taken care of. I mean, like, so done properly, there's nothing wrong with it. Now, done the other way, beating people into submission, starving them, forcing them into slavery, that's not correct. But, like, there's a whole lot of principles and stuff throughout our culture and society that have been twisted. And to me, it's extremism. Like, extremism in either direction is wrong. Like, if you go full liberal and, like, you do whatever you want, that's wrong. But if you go full lockstep and barrel, like, God's going to smite everybody from the heavens and you can't do this and you can't, and it's like, no, that's wrong too. Extremism leads to stupidity. Moderation and like proper study of things and understanding them for yourself, but actually just understanding them is the biggest key. You're looking at me awful weird.
I don't know. I don't know where we went from. You were just talking, so I was just looking at you. You talked for a good, 5 minutes.
You do a lot of zoning out, don't you?
Yeah, I was staring over there at that bike. I heard kind of what you said, but I don't know why. I was just looking at that bike.
Yeah. I am trying to find where all them stupid hoses go.
Be all right.
Well, I'm pretty sure one of them is a Venturi vacuum that's supposed to go on the crankcase that actually pulls a Venturi on the carb that helps it bring gas through. That might be why it's not pulling gas in and running. But like all the diagrams I look up, they'll like this part, and this part. And then you look at the picture and it's not them parts. It's like this hose is this hose for this. And then it shows like the tire. And I'm like, why would you show me a picture of the rear tire when you're trying to tell me where the vent hose
Well, I
on the
mean,
carb
the
goes?
one video we found, he showed us, he didn't even show him hooking up anything.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to show you how to put the carb on. And then he talks about the carb. He shows you rebuilding the carb. And then he shows the bike with no carb. And then it just shows a picture of the bike with the carb while he talks. None of it was him actually putting the carb on. Now, if it would have been titled, this is how you rebuild a carb, freaking awesome. Good job.
But
Yeah.
it was not.
Yeah. We're going to do instructional videos on how to put the transmission in my truck. But we're just going to set the camera in the bed of the truck and video the bed. And all you hear is beating and banging and cursing under the truck. And they're like, oh, so you just hit it with a hammer enough and yell at it.
Like a how it actually goes YouTube channel.
expectation versus reality.
Yeah. Because we'd have to link the, now you just perfectly unbolted and the transmission perfectly slides out, lowers enough. You don't have to take that piece of metal off up top.
It would be nice. It would be hard for us to do, but it would be kind of fun to video it all, right? And then shoot, like you said, shoot the video of us sliding the transmission into place and starting the bolts, right? But then edit it to where it shows everything going correct, and then could have links in the video. Like, if you want to see how long this 30-second process actually took, click on the link below. And it's like, oh, so they just showed the transmission going in, and they put all the bolts in, and then it shows 4 hours of us cursing the thing and yelling at it because it just won't go in.
It's like a 3-5 minute video, then like sends you to like a 4-hour clip.
And that's the saying you see a lot of times in memes. Like, every project is one broken bolt away from being, like, every 30-minute project is one broken bolt away from being a 3-day project. Like, how many times have we had that happen? Like, everything's going smooth, one bolt gets stuck or snapped, and you're like, oh, taking the engine out of the other Crown Vic.
A lot less than, for him, a lot less, a lot more than, a lot.
I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to learn how to, like, calm my anger issues down. And is something wrong over there? I seen you panic and start pushing buttons.
You just got really excited, and so you got really, like, hurt my ears loud, so I cut you down.
You cut me down.
Yes.
Where am I on the thing? Am I bouncing correctly?
Yes, you are a loud person.
Yeah, man.
Dylan.
Did you just whip me, invisible whip me or something?
That was me. That was my best attempt at being sassy.
Oh.
I don't really have sassy bones in my body.
It looked like you were whipping me. We were just talking about slavery, man.
Oh, I was watching a video that was like, which type of whip hurts the worst? And there was a bunch of buddies that had created a bunch of their own whips. Like, they had a cat o' nine tails. They had one that was like the horse whip. And then they were just all sitting around hitting each other. And I'm like, this is great.
I watched a video the other day of a R6 swap dirt bike.
Cool. I don't know what I watched yesterday or the other day.
Well, no, it was a while ago.
It should have been your work.
And then they put
After when I got home.
they put a guy on a Harley Davidson, and then they ran dirt bike tracks.
Hey, you've been to the flat
He
tracks.
blew the clutch out in like the first, because he was a dirt bike rider, and so he was playing with the clutch like it's a dirt bike.
Can't do that.
On a Harley. Yeah. And
Can't do that.
He blew the clutch up like instantly.
It's not hard to do. Which I don't know. I haven't been on many. I've only ridden a couple Harleys. Like,
your whole brain is in here going.
see, that's why.
Why?
Like,
It's
if I
so
ever
obsessive.
found like a late '60s, early '70s Harley that, someone just gave me, because I'm not gonna pay for one. Like, I'm sorry, just not gonna. But if someone was like, here it is, I would love to restore one, but take that old engine crap and just throw it out the window and go get one of the newer engines with the rubber mounts and the isolators and stuff, and like put it all together and have it nice and a smoother ride. Because, like, talk to any older Harley older Harley rider. That's a freaking tongue twister and a
There
half.
you go.
And most of them are going to have hemorrhoids. And they're going to talk to you about, like, the 70s and, the Harleys from that period. And it's going to be like, well, why'd you have a toolkit? And they're going to say, because every time you stop for gas, you had to put the darn thing back together. Because it would literally just shake itself apart.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
Okay.
so loud.
that was by choice.
Why?
And Harleys got associated with the 1%ers and all the gangs and stuff like that, because Harleys originally were junk. Everybody bought them because they were cheap. And then, like, they developed brand recognition over the years. Kind of like East Wing hammers. Like, East Wing hammers was, like, that was the cheap hammer. Everybody wanted the wooden handled or the, like, fiberglass handle. Until people realized, oh, a solid steel shanked hammer lasts a long daggum time. And
Yeah,
then, like,
I
they
did-
became some of the best hammers.
Wood handled hammers are they're so on weight. The weight distribution is
I
terrible.
hate them. And they're terrible because, like, they're just they wear out so quick.
It's not even wear out. It's just like driving a nail with that E-swing or a wood handle hammer.
Oh, that E-swing's going to hands down beat it.
Exactly.
And you don't even have to swing as hard. It's got enough weight and stuff to it. But swinging a 26-ounce hammer every day will make your forearms massive.
Wooden hammers are just junk. They make them to be junk. The fiberglass ones, they're all crap.
Mm-hmm. They just, to me, they're not balanced well either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not like the weight distribution. Like, people are up here holding them with the hammerhead here. Because the weight is so whack. When you hold it at the bottom, it's just like tying a brick to this can and like trying to swing it around.
Yeah. But I never liked them because, like, I have an E-swing that I had for years that got run over by a dozer. A D6
Not
dozer
anymore.
run over my hammer and had it slightly bent, and I still used it for years.
We had what was it called? The orange handle. What was that thing?
Bostitch?
I loved that hammer, right? I learned how to use a hammer at like 7, building a shack with a Bostage that was bent like this.
So
you know how long it took me to learn a new hammer?
every time you gave him a hammer, he'd be a half inch off.
That I couldn't use any other hammer but that hammer. It wasn't like terrible, but it was just enough off. When you got a straight hammer, you could not hit anything.
So you know what you should have done?
I was sitting there like,
Bent the other hammer perfectly.
well, you can't bend. Nothing's gonna be the same. And I don't know what happened to that hammer. I think I lost it. I don't know.
Yeah, you probably lost it somewhere. Well, you can remember, my grandfather, I asked him one time, because he's darn near blind and was like the past 20 years, couldn't hardly see anything, but he would still do construction and all this stuff. And I asked him one day, like, how do you not hit your thumb? And he was like, I just move it out of the way before I hit the nail. I'm like, do what? Because I was watching him. He would put his thumb over the head of the nail and swing, and then move his finger before he hit the nail. And I never seen him hit his finger. It's like, I hit my finger all the time, and it's not even near the daggum nail. What's wrong with you?
Same.
Him being blind also allowed him to do like pest eradication and stuff. Like we'd have wasp and stuff in some of the old house was remodeling, and he'd be up there hosing them with wasp spray, and they wouldn't touch him. He couldn't see them, so he wouldn't even be nervous about them. They'd be eating us alive. We'd be 100 foot away trying to hide, and there'd be just 100 stings apiece, screaming and running around. He'd be like, I don't know why y'all running around all that, hollering and stuff. They'll leave you alone if you don't think about it. You can't see them. You're straddling a 5-gallon bucket size red wasp nest. And they're not touching you, but they're trying to murder me and everybody else. And he's up there just laughing.
Understandable. That would be
When
funny.
we cleaned out the attic to get ready to do the addition. Wasp nest this big. They were all dead because it was like winter time, but
They had giant, like, tiered nest built.
yeah, and I wasn't doing that, and Allie didn't want to do it because she's terrified of wasps. My neighbor was over there with a broom handle, just whacking, picking them up with his hand. I was like,
The house we lived in town was a rental, and me and Tasia were like 17, 18 when we lived there. But I went in the attic in the garage one time because we just wanted to see what was up there. So I like get the ladder down and I climb up there and I just get my head up and I shine the light around and I'm looking in a hornet's nest, straight in the mouth. I didn't even think. I just dove head first straight out of the attic. Barely missed, like, smacking my face on the pavement because I, put my hand under myself, but, like, the concrete didn't bust me up too bad. And then I was like, oh, there's nothing flying. So what's going on? So, like, I get up there all timidly. They were dead and dormant. Like, none of them were there. But, like, we had it for a long time. Like, I got it out and preserved it. Like, it was really neat. But, yeah, what you don't want to see is the opening of a hornet's nest right in your face.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
just
right.
close the lid and climb back down the ladder. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Not
No.
jump off.
Same.
We went up there and got them. Like I said, got the nest down and, like, kept it for a long time. Then we found a 1986 High Times magazine up there. I think it was like the January I think it was a June edition or something like that. But yeah, it was pretty funny to find that in the attic.
1986. Year you were born.
Yep. That's what people were doing the year I got born. Reading High Times magazine and hanging out with Hornet's Nest.
Pretty sure that hornet's nest wasn't there though when you were born.
I mean, I hope
It's
not.
like Sandusky's old place. When you'd look through the insulation and there'd be jars. Just jars. Some of them had stuff in them. Most of them were just empty jars.
Random
Hmm.
people just hiding stuff.
Yeah, just jars.
Interesting.
And like whiskey jars or just mason jars or old medicine jars. Just a lot of freaking glass jars.
I love going through old houses and attics and basements and stuff, like especially ones that have been abandoned. Except for the one we went to in Georgia, to where there was like hair hanging all in the trees and socks everywhere and stuff. Like, there's abandoned stuff, and then there's some weird
Hair
shit
in the
going on here.
trees. You mean Mexican moss?
No, it was literally like clumps of hair. Ask your mama. It was Mexican moss.
I don't know what that means, but yeah, there was.
You've never driven to Florida and you look to the left and you see all that.
That's Spanish moss.
Spanish
Mexican
moss
and
is
Spanish
beautiful,
are the
and it was
same thing.
not.
No,
Spanish
they're
moss.
not.
I mean-
Spanish is from Spain.
Yeah, and Mexicans speak
And-
Spanish.
And most of the reason that Mexico is mostly Spanish is because the Spanish conquistadors that come over, and then most of the native population got wiped out through disease and famine and natural disasters. Mexico's heritage is Aztec and Mayan. Spanish heritage, all the short Mexicans you see in the variety of Mexico, its heritage comes from the Spaniards, not from the Aztecs.
I don't speak burrito. That's all I know.
You don't speak escargot? No, that's French.
I'm
What
like,
are the Spaniards known for? Because the French are known for like the French Foreign Legion, and then accused of being cowards a lot.
the French.
They will give you the proper definition of how to not do a revolution.
Didn't they have? Wasn't that where Napoleon's from?
Mhm.
Or was that France?
That was France, I think. Napoleon was
Mhm.
French, wasn't he? Napoleon Bonaparte? That sounds French.
I know he was good at what he did until he wasn't.
A lot of people are.
Wasn't he like really, really small?
Yeah. It's like, what was he, like 5'3"?
That's why it's called Napoleon syndrome. I had an
France.
that
Right.
swear to you he had Napoleon syndrome, but he was 6'4". But if you told him he was wrong about anything, man, that dude would flip plumb out on you. And it's like, you gotta chill, bro.
Well, I think
So
the
he did have
cool,
Napoleon.
the like weird part about the way the movie portrayed, like, did the Napoleon. I don't know much Napoleon history, but from what the movie said, they were like, let's get rid of this guy who has won almost every battle he's went into. All right, let's kick him out and let's get this fat mother freaker. Let's get this fat ugly dude. Put him in there. Let's get him.
It's because Napoleon was gaining too much power in my
This
opinion.
is gonna be great, dude. If we get this guy who's as big around as this table, great king. Get him in there. No.
Well, and
What?
a lot of times you watch leadership and like governments and stuff, and this is throughout history, make stupid decisions in far as leadership when it comes to war and battle. America's is making the mistake of it for a long time. I'm hoping they're reversing it. But like all of your top brass and generals, a lot of the ones that make the biggest decisions have never seen combat. Like, you know, they're not actually trained at warfare. If like you want somebody to lead an army, and like America's army, like we have too many rules. Like, I mean, honestly, it's just way too many. All these rules of engagement and crap. If you're in a war zone and you look like a threat, you die. Sorry, that's war. Like the Ukraine war, I've had people talking about, I've had people fussing at me about it. They're like, all the tragedies. I'm like, yes, it's terrible that this war is going on. I don't like the civilian casualties, but what are you going to do about it, first of all? And it's between two countries that hate each other, and they all have disputes. And, like,
I just find it crazy
what
that we
was
make
it? Ukraine versus
deals.
Russia?
not deals.
How we don't make anything our freaking self anymore?
No, we like he was talking about in war some things like we're not allowed to use flamethrowers no more because they're inhumane.
yeah, because it's inhumane.
And the
It's like you're
shotgun-
in war.
The shotgun was like banned for like I don't know if it's still banned, but I think it was like was you couldn't use it for
It's
a long
not banned
time.
anymore. But then there's so many rules. Like you can't, you got to see the enemy and all this weird stuff. And it's like if you're getting shot at, like the Taliban and like a lot of the terrorist organizations started using women and children a lot, right? One of my buddies is over there, and he said they had they had a horrible time because they would send a woman up and they would put her in tighter clothes to where you could clearly see that she was not armed. But what they would do is they would get close enough to point out the officers and leadership, because they would get close enough to be able to see the insignias. And when they would point at an officer, the sniper would then know who to target. In my opinion, you don't want to have to shoot a woman or a child, but if it's the life of you and your comrades versus that one life, like it's some of the Vietnam vets I've hung out with, and like you want to hear some terrible stories and like some true tragedies, talk to some Vietnam vets. But like there's several of them I've talked to over the years that were like, dude, it took me years to get over it, but like I had to kill a lot of kids. And it's like, dude, that's terrible, but like why? And they'd be like, well, because they would strap them with grenades. And the kids wouldn't understand what the grenades was, but they'd tell them, hey, we'll let you free and you can go eat. You can have all like the Americans to take care of you. They'd set a timer, freaking pull that chain, kid take off. So like a kid running at you for help, a lot of times you had to kill them because you didn't know if when they got to you it was going to blow you and everybody with you up.
Yeah.
And like that's a terrible thing. But at the same time, I've had people be like, well, that person's just evil. You should just die. So you should let the enemy that is sacrificing their own children just to win a war win? Because that's what you'd be doing.
I like the Hacksaw Ridge movie.
Great movie.
Very good movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
You have.
Trash can
No,
Cam.
I don't think he has.
We watched it all together.
No, I think it was just me, you, Tess, and Curie.
I'm pretty sure Dad was there.
No, I think he was out of town.
I can almost assure you he was there.
Well, I just assured you he wasn't.
You're difficult.
But basically, his dad was abusive.
Completely missed. Completely missed.
Aw.
Don't worry, I got this.
His dad was abusive, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes and he
God, get one of them.
like confronts his dad when he gets older. And his dad had a gun, and he took the gun from his dad and pointed it at his dad. Basically, like, quit your bullcrap. Quit getting drunk, quit beating people. This is enough. And then promise to never touch a gun again. Promise to God, and and so that's what he did. And then he went through the entirety of Hacksaw Ridge with no firearm.
Yeah. And I'm okay with
And
situations like that, but like that can't be the norm.
Yeah, it can't be the norm, and he almost got kicked out because at the training boot camp, he was like, no, I made a promise. I'm not touching it. And then he was in jail for a while. And then when they went to court, his dad was in the army, and his dad fought with the guy who was up there. And he went and he was like, look, my son wants to go to war with no gun.
Let him.
Yeah, that's his choice. But then he just became a combat vet, and he spent like all night at Hacksaw Ridge pulling people down that got injured. Enemies didn't matter. If they got injured, he'd pull them down.
Apparently, the enemies didn't last long.
Yeah, the enemies didn't. They probably killed him. Let's
Yeah.
be real. But he saved everyone he could.
And that's admirable, like extremely admirable. Like I said, it can't be the norm, but it's okay in some circumstances. I like some of I couldn't imagine having to go through some of this crap, but then like there's a couple vets, some of them have some YouTube shorts and stuff where people talking about them, but like there's one of them that's like blown up, shot, like they're zipping the body bag up is how gone this guy is. And like he reaches up and spits in the medic's face. He's like, I ain't dead, bro. You don't be zipping this crap. And he lived. But like, I mean, even the medics were like, yeah, he's gone. He's like, the heck I am. You ain't stopping me. But at the same time, like some people fall in love with war too, because it's a much simpler way to live.
Yeah.
When life is kill or be killed, survival is the only thing that matters. Things get a whole lot. You don't have time for the noise and bull crap of society. Like I've talked to, sat with a lot of combat vets that have a lot of trouble reintegrating into normal society because people get worried about so much bullcrap that don't matter.
Well, I think it's just war is so much different now.
Oh, it is.
Everything's over. Oh, I'm gonna fire this nuke. No, I'm gonna fire this nuke. Nothing's.
Well, some of it, but there's still a whole lot of very, very bloody hand-to-hand ground combat. And there's still a whole lot of very personal warfare that happens. And for a lot of people, they talk about snipers. Like
I saw a video the other day. Of
snipers are supposed to be impersonal and all this, but that's a lot of times with a sniper, you're tracking a target for weeks. You know his movements. You know everything he does with his family. Like if you're tracking him at his house, if he's at a base, you know all the guys he hangs out with. You know where he plays cards. You know everything about this fool. So when you pull that trigger, you're killing somebody you intimately know a lot about.
I saw one about the sniper talking about his first kill, and it was heck, you're 200 yards away.
Or
And
more.
Yeah, and it was a little boy, but he was running back and forth communicating, but he saw the firearm. The kid had a gun, so he pulled the trigger, and he's like, a lot of times you don't get to go up and see your kill, but he said the gun was an inactive gun. It was basically just a wall hanger, but it's what happens.
But you don't know that.
But he said he has it on his wall now, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that
war is hell.
And he was like, I don't ever want my kid doing this.
Yeah. And that's the thing, a lot of the countries we go into, people don't, they're talking about, a lot of people that look at war from, the American perspective, or from any first world country perspective, right? They look at war from the perspective of their society.
Yeah.
They're like, they just can't understand the kids doing these things, or having to kill a kid or a woman, or, different stuff like that. But the problem is, a lot of these countries we're going into these are not first world countries. These are not societies like ours, like Hamas right now. There's a lot of people that are basically just completely ignorant when it comes to the history of Hamas and Palestine and all that. But that's completely besides the point. But they'll be talking about the Palestinian people, and they're like, oh, this war's just killing Palestinians and stuff. The Palestinian people elected the Hamas leadership multiple times, and they're not throwing them out themselves. And so, Israel will blow up a hospital, and everybody's like, they attacked a hospital. And as soon as you get there, you realize, oh, this hospital was a front. They were launching rockets on innocent civilians in Israel from this hospital. It wasn't a hospital. It was actually being used as a base of operations for attacks. Hamas uses people as human shields, children and women and families, on purpose. You're talking about people that will willingly throw anybody into the meat grinder to achieve their goal. These are not normal people. The collateral damage of the war is something that cannot be avoided, because you're dealing with a group of people who, since they were given that territory and allowed to occupy it, right, as a gesture of goodwill, okay, yeah, you need a territory, you claim to be a people, whatever, here it is. Since then, I think they've started 6 or 7 wars with Israel. They've got their butt handed to them every time, but they keep starting wars. Don't start a war if you don't want your civilians blown up.
That movie we watched about the Israeli Olympians getting kidnapped or whatever, the true story, but
it was from the news people's perspective.
Was that not Hamas?
I do not think that was actually. That might have been Hamas, but I'm not.
Look it up.
I'm not sure of the actual.
What's the name?
It was. I don't remember the movie, but just look up a.
It was the Olympic terrorist attack in the 80s or 90s, I think.
But it was so the craziest thing to me was Israel was like, we'll send our special forces in.
Mm-hmm. And they'd have done the job too.
Yeah. And we were like, meh.
It was in
72?
Munich. Yeah.
No.
It's a Palestinian group.
Yep. It's Palestinians. They've been terrorists for years.
Their demands were so stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to kidnap 11 of your people. You're going to give me 230 of mine.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And the issue is too, the German government at that time was like, no, we don't want Israel's help. We can do it ourselves, right?
They were freaking the news people were showing videos of how the cops were trying to get in on the news.
Yeah.
Broadcasted worldwide.
Like they didn't have a TV in there, you know. And that's, they learned a lot from that. But and again, it's just it's differences in culture, because like people just cannot understand I guess a terrorist. Like they can't understand the terrorist mindset. Like that everybody in America, like if you mention white supremacy, everybody goes all like KKK, Ku Klux Klan, all that same type of crap. It's organizations where from birth or from whenever you get accepted, you are taught to hate. And it's very easy. Once you teach somebody to hate, all you got to do to keep them hating is just keep them mad. If you can keep somebody in a perpetual loop of being mad about something, you can get them to do anything you want. And then for the terrorist, you know, committing these attacks and blowing themselves up, you're promised all this crap. You want to know one of the surefire ways to get to heaven for Muslims?
Kill someone and yourself and one
Yeah.
big bang.
You get virgins.
Commit suicide. You know, like, yeah.
Doesn't someone else have to die though?
Yeah. I don't necessarily know if someone else has to die. You just have to, like, I think it's sacrifice yourself in service. I need to brush up more on that. I haven't studied
That's all I
that in a
know.
long time. I mostly study like other cults and, you know,
Who
the different societies and cultish
who
societies
was
throughout
the
the years.
Twin Towers? For Palestine?
Muslims.
Muslims?
That was
Bin Laden, right?
that was Bin Laden, but the Taliban. That was the Taliban.
Is
Who
Bin,
we
is
trained.
Bin Laden still alive?
No.
Or we had him
No.
killed, didn't we?
We
Yeah.
smoked him.
You know?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think I've watched a podcast on how he
Now
died.
there's been a lot of terrorists killed over the years, and a lot of people like by American people. But one of my favorite was when they killed one of the last ones that Trump was sitting in the operation room, where like they see the video and you watch all the footage and everything, and he's talking about it. And a lot of other people would be like, okay, we took out such and such leader and everything, you know, they don't say anything about it other than the mission accomplished. Trump was like, oh man, he cried like a baby.
Yeah.
We bust in that door and he bawled and begged for his life. We took him out. Your big bad leader, his last moments was him bawling like a baby because he realized his bill had come due. Not exactly quoted, but basically Trump stood up there and bragged. And that's something too, like Russia or Israel, right? They send in their special forces. It's front page news. Fools mess with us, and they found out. And here's the video of it. America for a long time would be like, no, we didn't send it to anybody. Why? They lie
I feel
about
like
it.
they try to hide. Everything's a big secret. Why?
It's because a lot of the American people
Like
are a bunch of idiots.
there can be secretive stuff. Like obviously you don't want to broadcast worldwide if you're going in somewhere.
Yeah, but once you're done,
Yeah.
like that's the issue. Like America has lost a lot of its military prowess and like view in the world, like, you know, power structure, is because we quit realizing that the only way to have peace is being the baddest bastard on the planet. The reason America has been on top for so long and the world has been so peaceful for so long is because we would come over there and say, you're gonna die. And you're going to die horribly if you keep acting stupid.
Didn't Trump say he was going to release the stuff about JFK?
Mm-hmm. And he has a lot of it. It's
He was killed by
thousands
the
and
CIA,
thousands
right?
and thousands. I say he was. Now, there's people who have reviewed it. Like some of the first comments and like articles that come out real quick is like, sorry, conspiracy theorists, JFK was killed by blah, 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 Lee Harvey Oswald. It's like, no, he wasn't.
He said no to doing stupid crap, right?
The CIA come to him and wanted to produce a false flag operation. Now, when I explain this, you guys think about all the school shootings and the attacks and stuff like that. Not all of them are false, but I can guarantee you that they're twisted for a reason. But they wanted to produce a false flag operation on American soil and citizens that would make it look like Cuba did it, so that we would have an excuse to go whoop up on Cuba, right? And he was like, no.
Because it's stupid.
And then shortly after that, he died. And it's just too coincidental.
Yeah.
And like this could be nothing, but in my personal opinion, I've looked at all the angles and stuff, and I'm not an expert, but I can tell you, like, just from deer hunting and stuff like that fool didn't get them 3 shots off that fast. And then there's another, like, one of the conspiracy theories that's been a long time. It's called, like, the magic bullet. The bullet that supposedly killed one of them was just laying on the gurney, and one of the medical people picked it up, supposedly, but it's not deformed. It's a literal bullet that has not been through anything. And that was part of what was used to match it to the gun they found.
Not a casing.
Not a casing, the actual
Like,
bullet
actual-
itself.
the bullet's
Right, the
still in it?
lead.
The tip.
Okay.
Right, the tip of the bullet that gets the projectile that gets fired out, right? And when a projectile hits anything, what happens to it? Even if it's just flesh, it deforms.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's perfectly fine. Explain that one. And then the angles of the shots. Like, you look at the angles of the shots, and they're like, he got hit here, here, and here from over there, but the bullet come in from over here. Explain that.
Didn't they say he got hit from the back of the head, but clearly in the video shows his head going back?
Well, I mean, no, it's they say the bullet hit a certain angle, but then they're like, he shot from here while the motorcade was here. Okay, if I shot you from here, how did you get a bullet in the back? How did you get a bullet come through the side of the car?
3 snipers.
A couple people in a grassy knoll. And, like, all governments are stupid.
Yeah.
All of them, eventually go towards nothing but power. Like, power corrupts. But the problem is, so much of the American society for so many years has just been stupid about it. Like, they believed the government was out there for their own good, and for quite a while it was. But the second you had the continuity of government plans instituted was when it really started going away and really started getting crooked. And that was where, like, used to they had a plan to shelter in place every citizen in case of a nuclear attack or major explosion or whatever. But, like, it was to protect every citizen. And then at a certain point, I think it was in the 50s, they were like, we can't do this for every citizen. It's going to cost us too much money. So instead of doing that, they introduced the continuity of government, where it's basically like the only people we're going to protect is the government. Because that's who's important. Because if everybody else dies and we're still alive, who the f are you going to rule over?
I think
Exactly.
the reason Captain America, The Winter Soldier is my favorite Captain America movie, or one of my favorite Marvel movies, is the way they explain how long Hydra had been infiltrating them and that they've been there forever and you haven't done anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know, I was going to ask this. So how crazy Marvel makes Russia look? How actually crazy do you think Russia is?
Pretty crazy.
So you think the Red Room, how, like, I know that, obviously that's not completely true because it's obviously, but do you think there are places like that in Russia?
What are you talking about, the Red Room?
Teaching little girls to become assassins and
Yeah. Heck yeah, there is.
in Russia specifically. I don't know how true it is, but
Russia and all over the place. And there's even American institutions that do that. Not as bad as the Russian institutions, but, like, Russia is a people that were built for warfare. Russian history, if you study it, they are one of the most unruly, tough, just meaner than piss cultures on the planet. Cool people, great to hang out with, but they don't do good unless they have a strong leader. The best times in Russian history has been when they've had leaders that were very, very powerful. They're a very tough people. With that being said, they're also a very cruel people. I mean, like Putin, I like the guy. I've heard a lot of his speeches. I've listened to a lot of his talk, especially here recently. He's an Orthodox Christian. He may not believe everything I believe the way I believe it, but, like, the way he talks about his culture and the way things are not going to be allowed and things will be allowed, like, he cuts out a lot of the bull crap of society, and he does it in a very, affluent manner, in my opinion, very well spoken. But you also got to remember that he was KGB. Like, he grew up and cut his teeth in that government as a murderer and a killer and a torturer. Like, he's a bad dude. That's why I'm glad they don't settle arguments by letting our presidents and leaders fight.
yeah.
Because, for a lot of, Russian, especially like Putin's reign history, you see our presidents, playing golf and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with golf. But then, like, they'll show videos of Putin. He's on a horse in the middle of the mountains with a rifle strapped to his back, no shirt, nothing but pants, ripped as heck, traversing the wilderness to go hunt bears. You know, like, this is our leader. He's a bad mamma jamma. And then they're like, here's your leader. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And the Easter Bunny has to lead him around. And, like, there's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I like the conspiracies Marvel makes about all the other countries. It's great.
you do have to be wary about movies, though, because a lot of times movies in Hollywood will specifically put out something like conspiracy theories movies and stuff like that. And then conveniently, like 6 months, a year after the movie was put out, there will be documents released from the government where they'll declassify things, and you will see that exactly what that movie's conspiracy was about is actually happened, right? But the reason they do that is it's desensitization, and it gets you used to it.
Because the Nazis are, or not the Nazis. Hydra is just what's it called? Not Nazis. The other people that are the Nazis.
Germans?
Soviet Union?
Yeah. No.
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 What are you talking about?
The
The SS?
Nazis, the other people that are the Nazis, but it's a different name. It's not the Germans.
Aryans?
No.
Neo-Nazis?
Wait.
You'll say it and I'll say yes.
Okay, wait. What country?
Germany.
Germany? The SS?
There's only Nazis.
When the Nazis disbanded, or it wasn't the Nazis anymore, they kept consulting. What was that called?
I don't know. Eugenics?
No, you know what it's called. I don't know what I'm
But you're going to
talking
have to look this up, Mama. What was Hydra supposed to be? Who was Hydra's founding organization, I
Yeah,
guess?
wait, you talking about like Hydra or actual Nazis? Because now I'm confused.
You talking about the Nazis that all fled to Argentina? That there's people that think that's false, but yet there's whole villages down there that speak German and everybody has Nazi tattoos? Like, and you come down there speaking Portuguese and they're like, no, here we speak German.
You go a little bit like, they might know what that means, but it's Russian.
I know.
I'm just.
Buongiorno. Y'all have never seen Inglourious Basterds, have you? Okay, we got to all watch it together, but that is one of
The Third Reich.
the Third Reich.
No.
Well, it says
That's what the Nazis
that
were known
various
as.
real-world historical evil organizations, including those of the Nazi Party, the Third Reich, and other fascist groups. That's who Hydra was modeled after.
Okay.
Now I
If
just wanna
I'm
know what
not
he's talking
crazy,
about.
if I'm not crazy, Nazi Germany,
Mhm.
after we won, they quit or whatever, but they kept a group. And that group had a freaking name. And it's in my head, but I cannot think of it.
Yeah, this is someone's going to have to comment this one. I know that's one. Find it. The Nazis were also.
What were they?
What do you mean?
What would you say, like, they're...
I mean, they were all heavily, not all of them, but like the SS soldiers, like and Himmler's group, and a lot of them, like a lot of them were very heavy into the occult, and a lot of the practices come from the occult.
Are you looking for socialist?
Maybe? I don't know.
Hierarchy?
I don't know. That's whatever.
Yeah,
No,
we're
no,
gonna
no,
we're
no,
gonna figure
okay,
this
No,
out.
no, no,
The,
we're
the
still talking
Nazi
about
Party
this.
was known as the National
Socialist
Socialist
Party.
German Workers' Party,
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
And it was-
Socialist.
declared illegal and effectively dissolved after the
Resistance?
defeat of Germany.
Maybe
in
the
World War II.
socialist. I've heard Dad say that.
That's just socialism is a like form of government that just doesn't work.
I feel like they had a name. I feel like the Nazis are still a thing,
Yes, they are.
and it's still in Germany,
Yeah.
big time.
Well, not necessarily in Germany as much as it is in other parts of the world. That's what the original Ku Klux Klan versus what the neo-Nazi movement made it become were two completely different things. The original Ku Klux Klan, in some instances, was okay. In some instances, it was terrible. Like, you actually got to study the history of each group to, like, I hate blanket explanations. Like,
National Socialist.
Socialist, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. Talking about
good old Stalin. Joseph Stalin. Sorry, she's pulling up Russian leaders now.
Stalin.
Part. Does it start with a P?
I don't know.
Stalin was part of the Communist Party.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Communist?
The
Yeah.
Communist Party.
That's what Russia was.
Yes.
Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Communism and socialism are just two forms. It's hard because people talk about communism and socialism as like forms of social order. They're actually economic. It's how your economics is controlled, which dictates your social order. Is the problem. Like communism is everything.
I don't know. What I was trying to say basically is I think the Nazis got defeated and they said, oh,
Which one were
okay,
you asking?
and they went into the shadows.
Communism.
They didn't
Communism is the
stop.
abolition of private property, with all property being communally owned and controlled by the state.
Which
And
means the state is responsible for controlling all commerce and industry. The problem with that is, on paper, and everything's split equally, everybody has a proper place, and everybody's taken care of, on paper, it sounds great. You add in humans, and all of a sudden it gets retarded. Every time. I understand every time communism and socialism are implemented, it turns out in this huge, disastrous failure. But yet they keep pushing it as this utopian society they're trying to form.
Is that what the Nazis were pushing? Communism?
Socialism.
Socialism?
Social ownership of the means of production, where industrial production is owned and managed by the government or worker cooperatives.
It's both of them are economic forms of controlling a country. That's why capitalism is attacked so much. And not necessarily capitalism, because there's many different types of capitalism. Everybody just says capitalism. There's laissez-faire, which is free market capitalism, and then there's venture capitalism. There's capitalism that's like a hybrid of socialist and communist. That's kind of what China does. But like free market capitalism is everybody's allowed to their opportunity, basically, and like free trade and stuff like that.
Well, see, what I think is weird, right, is like that movie, the Olympian movie, was in Germany, right?
Uh-huh.
And all through the movie, they're pushing how much Germany wants to restore their reputation.
Uh-huh.
Why are they still so worried about it?
Because they got a very piss poor reputation.
Because they started wars and then they...
The reason World War II was able to happen is because Germany, in my opinion, not necessarily fairly, got blamed for World War I. World War I was started by the mafia. The Serbian group, the Black Hand, was one of the first mafia organizations started by Masons. It was a Masonic order, organization that was set up. The Black Hand supposedly assassinated Franz Duke Ferdinand.
Yeah.
And because of all the treaties between countries, it's just like us three, we run three different businesses, right? And we agree, me and you, that if your business is in trouble, I'm going to come help you economically, war, doesn't matter. Malachi attacks you, right? So I come join because I am obligated by this treaty to join, right? Because I have joined, now Malachi's 4 friends that are obligated by that treaty join. And because I have joined and now he has 4 friends, not just one, you call all your other friends that are obligated by treaty to join you in fighting Malachi. That's how World War I started. Some retard nobody got assassinated, and within 3 weeks or a month, the whole freaking world was at war.
Well, World War II we were going to stay out of, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then Japan was like, we got this. And then they attacked us, and then all of a sudden we were like, fool. Which honestly is a very good thing that happened, because if World War II would have went the other way, we'd probably all be speaking German right now. Which is hilarious.
So it's a good thing we got involved.
Yes. Hitler was in my opinion, one of the greatest motivational speakers of the 20th century. Because it doesn't matter if he was a good or bad dude, because I have people fuss at me for saying that, but it doesn't matter what his opinion was or what he led people to do.
You still think he was a bad dude?
Yes,
That
I
doesn't
still
make him
think he
good
was a bad dude, but his skill at motivational speaking was absolutely incredible.
He had that charisma.
He talked an entire nation into going off and killing other people because they weren't 6 foot, blonde haired, and blue eyed, and perfect Aryan descent. Hitler was a quarter Jewish from my studies. He was like very short, brown haired, and brown eyed. That would be like me standing up there and talking an entire nation into attacking another nation because they're over 5 foot tall and they have long hair, or they don't have, they have long hair. It's terrible. You can't have long hair and you can't be over 5 foot. You need to go murder everybody that doesn't have short hair and isn't, under 5 foot tall. And the whole nation would listen to me and go off and murder people for it. That's the equivalent of what Hitler did.
Have you ever seen the videos that are like, man, you ever think it's weird how we never figured out Hitler's last name? And it's just like, you gotta wonder how much
that's the same as that one girl that's like,
is.
I don't understand homelessness, because like, why don't they just go buy a house?
Or do you realize if you saved $1 a year or $1 a day for a year, you would have roughly over $30,000? And it's like, no, you wouldn't.
365.
You idiot.
Yeah, there's some people. But the problem is, people a lot of times will look at something, they have not been taught to evaluate things logically. They'll think it's true, they'll say it, and then they'll stand by it.
And then there's a post on X, or how you write out what you think and you post it. It's like, man, I really respect the guy who killed Hitler
himself.
Yeah, it's like you respect.
Supposedly, I don't think he died in that bunker. I think he fled to Argentina with the rest of them. He may have died there, but I don't think he did. And it really,
did they show his body?
In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Well,
he lost.
Yeah, he lost, but at the same time,
what was the final push of World War II when they lost? I don't think I've ever.
The ultimate culmination of what caused Hitler to lose is he had a treaty with Russia, a non-aggression treaty. Basically, they weren't going to attack each other. And then he almost had like most of Europe defeated. Like he was couple weeks to a month away from actually winning on that front of the war. And then he was like, I think it would be a great idea to split my forces and attack Russia in the winter. No, you don't attack Russia in the summer when you're spread thin, first of all. You definitely don't attack them bunch of nutsoids that are filled up on liquor so much that their blood don't freeze and go do it in the winter.
Russian winters are some of the roughest winters, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they known for their winter pretty much?
Yeah. Yeah. So what he did was he got cocky and he started believing the retardancy that he was spitting out, and then he started a front on 2 wars. That's why Germany was split for years. The wall, Berlin Wall going between them is because when, Russia advanced and America advanced, like we come in from, both sides on Germany, and that was the end of the war. But then we split the territory. Like one side was influenced heavily by Western society, one side was influenced heavily by Eastern society, and that was where like half of Germany was communist rule and just terrible for years, and then the other half was Western and not necessarily the greatest.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Which army was there at the bunker?
I think it was the Allied armies. I think it was the groups that were with the Americans. You got Europe and.
So who found Hitler's body in the bunker?
That's a question for our Google.
That's I'm saying okay, obviously we were zeroed in on Hitler and we were pushing towards him. That's why he was in that bunker.
Mm-hmm.
So what army was pushed towards that bunker? Died.
Yeah. And like the worst atrocities that like all the eugenics and like the stuff like the murder of the Jews and the unpure bloodlines and all that was carried out. Like a lot of people don't realize that the scientists that started them were all American scientists. Like eugenics was started in America, and the Germans looked at it and were like, we kind of like that, and then they perfected it. So like the evilness and atrocities of the world are not necessarily
scientists everywhere.
Yeah, we brought a bunch of them over for the Cold War. They helped us develop rockets and all types of stuff because we were like, you're really smart. It doesn't matter that you're evil. That's like we was talking about Bin Laden earlier. The Alabama and all that terrorist organization, the CIA and the Americans trained them. We're the ones that made them groups what they are, and then they turned around and attacked us. And it's happened multiple times throughout American history. We're like, we're going to come help you overthrow such and such. And as soon as they do, they're like, you're infidels, and they attack us. And it's like, why'd you do that? It's the scorpion and the is it the scorpion and the frog that
I was
that
watching
the frog floats the scorpion across? As soon as they get across, the scorpion stabs him, poisons him. The frog's like, why'd you do that, bro?
What train did we derail?
I don't know.
It's the
World War II.
principle of helping someone, and then when they turn on you, wondering why when you didn't evaluate their nature. Scorpion and a frog are sitting by a river, and they both need to get across. The scorpion's like, hey, help me get across. So the scorpion jumps on the frog's back, and the frog swims him across the river. As soon as they get to the other side of the bank, the scorpion turns around and stings him. As the frog's dying, the frog looks at him. He's like, bro, why'd you do that? I just helped you. And he's like, I'm a scorpion. What'd you expect? Every time we train these terrorist organizations and these extremist groups, especially in the like Islamic world and Muslim world, it's the extremist groups of them are very, 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 very violent. We train them, we help them, we allow them to overthrow governments, and then they commit terrorist attacks against other countries and us. And we're like, why'd you do that? Because that's what we do. So like a lot of people are naive about terrorists because they're like, oh, they're just peaceful. No, they're not.
So what I'm finding is kind of vague. It looks like the first inkling to the outside world that Hitler was dead came from the Germans themselves. And then, according to Russian reports, the bodies were exhumed by Soviet troops and taken to Magdeburg in East Germany, where Hitler's body was said to have finally been identified.
Was said to have finally been identified.
Yeah.
That is why the vagueness about it is kind of, and like all the Nazi gold that was hidden and stuff like that people were like, oh, that's just bullcrap. And like, there's a lot of it's been found, and
I
I know what you're
think
talking about on that one. I watched.
I
something
think-
about that.
they were like, oh crap, we're losing.
that's usually what happens.
Okay. And they said, let's pretend like we're shutting down and, have Germany say, oh, this is Nazism is illegal now. Let's just run the government through the shadows.
That's what most of the world happens. Most of the wars, honestly, are like strings pulled by a couple high families that run most of the stuff.
A lot of these articles are like contradicting each other. Some of them are saying he had a bullet to his temple. Some of them are saying cyanide.
Uh-huh.
But I
And
thought
they're
I thought he
mostly
shot
saying
himself.
either his own SS people found him or the Russians.
Or he's still
Yeah.
alive.
From
'Cause they
from
protected
what
Well,
him.
that
he'd be
was the
dead.
thing.
He'd be dead now.
The Russians
No.
are the
What?
ones that were
Yeah,
like,
no.
we have his body,
Well, you
we've
said he's still alive.
identified
I'm
him.
thinking,
But if I remember
It's been a
right, like
minute.
no evidence was really released, no proof was really released. They didn't show pictures. Like from my understanding, the body was
watch
like
the
horrible.
biggest comeback of the world. The Nazis just come out of nowhere.
Why do you think we can't see the dark side of the moon? Nazis. That's why.
Hey,
They have a
Call of Duty
T-Rex too,
Zombies is
according to that
happening
movie.
Up there, bro. I swear.
What?
So Call of Duty Zombies, the moon is happening up there
Yeah,
somewhere.
right
Wow.
now, and they have a T-Rex. You've seen the movie.
What are we talking about?
I have no idea what.
There's a movie where Nazis like have a secret base on the moon, and it gets discovered, and there's a big war. But like one of the main Nazis has a T-Rex he rides.
Didn't they perfect a lot of things before they got? I mean, like a lot before they got like disbanded.
They had a lot of advancements, but like, and I think one of the reasons they lost a lot, like, they weren't able to fight as effectively as they could. I think they could have moved a lot faster because they were phenomenal at warfare, like Blitzkrieg, lightning warfare, come in, bomb the crap out of everything, constant, like just non-stop assault, right? Very phenomenal type of warfare, but one of the things that hindered them a lot was their engineering. They were very good engineers. They had some great engines. But if you're familiar with any of the German stuff we work on now, like the BMWs and the Mercedes and the cars and stuff like that, anytime me and you have to go work on a BMW or Mercedes, what's the first thing we think? Every tool's special. Everything's over-engineered.
Chevy's like that.
Well, no, like, especially back in the day, everything was highly, highly, highly over-engineered. So, like, when their tanks and stuff would break down, It really took them something to fix it. They had to have some smart dude to fix it. When we were a bunch of rednecks that were like, we want it to run no matter what. It needs to run on urine, dog poop, old animals, petrol. Like, I need to be able to throw a log in it and it still fire up. Like, I need this thing
I
to
think
run.
something that also kicked them in the rear is how they were overworking all their army people. They're like, here's meth.
I mean, that helps you. And that's also
But-
how
but
they
that's-
committed a lot of the atrocities. You get on meth, you haven't slept in 4 days, all of a sudden humans aren't humans anymore.
Exactly. I think that's started hindering them because these people weren't sleeping. They weren't taking rest. They were just fighting.
But they also, they had to do that towards the end because they were fighting a war on 2 fronts. There was no resupplies. A lot of their
Yeah.
supply lines got, tore
Didn't
up
they
and
make a
messed up.
lot of other people fight for them too? Germans or not Germans.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you were conscripted into their, like, if you were taken over, they'd force you to fight. Unless you were Jewish, then they'd throw you in a camp, force you to make their ammunition and kill you. But
Which makes zero sense. I don't know why they were so. I don't get what was the deep rooted hatred?
this
can't
is just pure, like, we'll have to wrap up after this, but this is just pure me musing. I think one of Hitler's grandparents, one of the ones that was Jewish, where he got his Jewish name, which was changed and everything for purposes, but like, he was quarter Jew. I think his Jewish grandparent beat him too much. I think something happened to where he was like, but then you can also read Mein Kampf, and you can, if you read it and actually think about his mindset as he's going through it, like, you can see how he devolved and lied to himself enough and got brainwashed in his own sense.
So wait, Mein Kampf is his actual like.
It's his autobiography, yeah. Very well written, but it gives you a good perspective into how someone goes into a warped mentality that deep. I don't recommend.
What are we talking about?
Mein Kampf.
What's that?
It's Hitler's autobiography. It tells about his life, and a lot of writings about how he, began
Do they
to
have
hate
like
the
his
Jews.
diary released or anything? That'd be
That's
pretty
kind
cool.
of like what it is. Kind
That's
of.
what it is.
But I mean, if you look at it and read it, like, I don't suggest a lot of people like go read writings like that, unless you are very firm in your own foundation of what you believe. But like, I think if you're a Christian and you are firm in your belief, you should read the Quran. You should read all of the writings of the Krishnas. You should read a lot of the Mohammedan writings that were, before the Quran and after the Quran. You should read a lot of the Mormon scholars and the Book of Mormon. You should read and study all this stuff to see exactly what they believe. Because you cannot combat an enemy if you do not understand that enemy. And it's not necessarily like combating like swords and sticks, but like when someone comes up and talks to you about a certain religion, or they're talking about this, and they're trying to, like, a lot of people get deceived because they get into things because they don't understand what they are.
Yeah.
And so, like, as a Christian, once you have a firm foundation in Christendom, which you should read the Bible, and you should do studying, you should pray, you should do all that on your own. You should also have other Christians help you. But you shouldn't just leave it at that. And the problem is most Christians don't even study and know what they believe, much less study and know what other people believe. Like, it's something you should do even before you become a Christian. Like, if you are looking into religions, when I was around 10 when I started studying all the religions, because my parents didn't tell me, like, my mama was a Christian, daddy was not, but like, his beliefs were different than mama's. But like, neither one of them said, you have to believe what I believe. Both of them said, your job is to study and to get enough knowledge on your own to figure out what you believe, because you can't live on my faith. And that was told to me by both my parents. So when I was 10, almost 11, I started studying all the, the major religions, right? Since then, I've studied a lot of the obscure ones, a lot of the occult practices over the years, like looked into their beliefs. I've witnessed some different things. But like, that was what ultimately led me at 13 to become a Christian, was because I had studied all the other ones and evaluated them all and looked and been like, okay, Christ amongst all the religions in the world is unique. Christianity is the only religion that your sins are paid by him. Salvation is a gift because he loves you. Christianity is completely unique. Christianity is the only religion in the world that their leader isn't in a grave. Because I could promise you, if Jesus hadn't raised from that grave, his body and bones would still be on display to this day by all the people who didn't like it.
I think it's think Christianity is like, I like Christianity, but I think it's so twisted, and you can't go in a church where we live without hearing. It's very rare to go in a church without hearing something you've heard before.
True, and a lot of it, the focus has gotten shifted. We
Yeah.
might have to split this episode in two, but it'll be okay.
Well,
You're gonna have to. You're
we
an
can-
hour and a half.
we can just stop and we can just talk about this next week.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Just
we
gotta remember
you two have to watch this episode when it comes out
Nah.
why.
Saturday night, Sunday, whatever, so that we can remember it. But yeah, you guys want to do some religion, some different religious tenets and beliefs next week?
We can do that.
Sure.
Y'all do Christianity, and some of the major religions. Look at the tenets of Catholicism. Look at the tenets of the Muslim faith. Look at
You got that,
and the
champ.
Hindus, right?
Yeah.
And I will try to find some of my resources and stuff that I've read over the years, and the one I'm reading right now that parallels almost all of the other religions to the ancient Baal worship. And how's that
And
sound?
I will be a
Doing
spectator.
Nothing. Yeah, we'll be doing absolutely nothing.
And I will listen and I will add my input as we
Right,
go.
sounds like a
This was
plan.
your idea.
Well, we
That
got
doesn't mean I want to study
got a
up.
long episode this week, guys, but thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, or if you don't like us and subscribe to us, find somebody you do.
Yeah, if you
Support
don't like
somebody.
us, don't subscribe. That makes 0 sense.
True Crime Kent. If you don't like us, go check him out. He's pretty cool.
Or like,
That's the thing. If you don't like us, find somebody you do like and support them.
Well, I hope you enjoyed.